especially now that everything's in bloom and it's like the same sights I saw before are made new because it was everything else was dead. You know what I mean? The trees didn't have leaves on them, a lot of them, and similar scenes that I had photographed before. I mean, scenes I had photographed before were very, very different now with all this growth and everything. And
Chicago is one of the states that gets all the seasons, because California famously does not get winter at all. You know, typically it's just summer, spring, summer, autumn. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. So to go there, you could really appreciate because you could see a difference, a big difference, comparing my experience last time to this time. And it was just, man, it was so much fun. Anyway, it was just
Nice.
it's just such a vibe, and no pretense. It's not a tourist trap.
I wonder how your buddy would like to be on a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done his own. He's done several, but he's quite busy. He's a superior general of a religious order out there.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, he's the head priest.
So he doesn't really listen to podcasts either. He's too busy.
As far as I know, no. I know that he's done. Maybe, yeah. I think it's so infrequent, so busy. I'm so proud of him.
It might be for the best, because honestly, some of these podcasts I listen to, they would be general topics, or it'll be about video games or something, right? But in between, they have these embedded advertisements from other people, like other podcasts. And no joke, probably within like 3 months, there was 3 different podcasts, and they kind of do this little, I guess they call it like a trailer, where they try to get people to pause that show you're listening to right now and come subscribe to us, type of thing. They do some shit like that.
That's obnoxious.
They try to grab your attention. All 3 of those podcasts were talking about penises.
What the shock. It's the shock factor, sort of, then.
These are like conversational podcasts, so what they try to do is, it's like they try to draw you in by making it seem like, oh, this is something that you might have fun listening to us talk about.
Penises.
For me, it's like the complete opposite. I'm like, you could have literally picked any other topic, but these are the topics that they chose to put in their trailer. So one of them, these are all actual pieces of the trailer, right? So one of them was talking about, why do Snickers bars have penis veins on them?
That is so contrived.
There was another advertisement that was talking about, they're like, oh, come listen to us compare our penis sizes with each other, whatever the fuck. And then the last one I heard was, he was wrapping up his trailer, and at the very end, he says, it ranges from this all the way to what direction are penis curves. Mine's to the left, by the way. Like, he even says that in the trailer. He's like, mine's slightly to the left. Some shit like that. What the fuck is going on here? This is what people think others want to talk about? This is what they want to listen to.
Right. Man, it says something. It says something for sure. I just think to myself, like, where is I don't know. Just disappointing.
It's almost like those bro-y podcasts that we try so hard not to be.
Right. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. I think that's stupid. Why are we going to talk about that? That's the best you can do. Like, is that really? Howard Stern, shock jock, right? He has more genuine conversations, and sure, he, especially in the beginning, he would talk about crazy sex shit, and he would have porn stars on his show and things like that. Anyway, I guess my point is, again, it's that shock factor. Let's talk about this. And my question also is, well, what are they trying to accomplish? And who is it that their audience is? Who are they trying to reach? I don't think they're trying to appeal to women per se.
Doesn't sound like it at all.
You're really limiting your listening audience if all you do is appeal to broed out guys.
Mm-hmm. Imagine if we had a video version of this podcast. Do you think we would come off as bro? I don't know, me with the hat right now, but with the shirt, the Aflixionados podcast shirt.
Yeah, Aflixionados.
This is actually a new shirt, by the way. This is the new merch.
I like that. Yeah. Broed out. I think based on maybe some of the ways that we talk, I mean, we do have a California way of talking.
Oh yeah, I've heard this actually. So when I went to San
Oh
Antonio,
yeah.
people were like, "Yeah, you you definitely sound like you're from California."
Yeah. I read this book by an author named Constance Hale. Shout out to Constance Hale. She's brilliant. And she wrote this book called Sin and Syntax. And in it, she talks about word usage and the beauty of the English language. Sin and syntax being like, it's kind of a fun thing without getting too deep into the weeds on that. Sin can be offensive. It could be like, oh, you're offending me right now with how terrible your grammar is. But it can also be, the seductive aspect. You're breaking the rules. That's sin. You know what the rules are,
Mm.
but you're breaking them with a little bit of a wink, and that's where that creativity comes into play. That innovation, where you kind of flirt with it a little bit.
You know, I kind of think of it like jazz music, where I felt like
Yeah,
it was breaking a lot of rules, and it was breaking the mold, and it was unlike a lot of the other music around it at the time. I think a lot of people, it to them, it was just like, what the fuck is this noise, you know? But over time, we've definitely, not like me specifically, but just like in general, people have learned to really appreciate it for what it is.
yeah. I think jazz is the highest form of musical. How would I put that? The greatest form of improvisation, perhaps. It's all vibes, literally vibrations, and there's no real wrong note. It's what everybody else does to adapt to it.
Yeah, and that's actually why I brought it up. It's a big part of the storyline for the movie that we're going to be covering. So, should we mob it?
Let's mob it.
Do you feel comfortable taking over the intro?
Oh, doing the intro? Oh, sheesh. Let me see here.
You know, take a crack at it.
Sure. Let's see. I'll give it a. We can obviously cut it out if it's not so good. Welcome to Aflixionados podcast, episode 26. My name is Michael, and the other voice occupying your head this time is none other than my homie, Eric.
How you doing?
Yeah. Thank you to all of the listeners out there for joining us. The show is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. That also includes YouTube, where you can find us at Aflixionados Podcast. As always, new episodes drop on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific. This is a monthly podcast where we mainly talk about films that range from mind-numbing to mind-blowing. We also cover TV shows or other forms of media. Lastly, we will be getting into spoilers here, and there will be only the healthiest amount of expletive tossed in. You have been warned. If you ain't ready, then get ready, because in this episode, we will be discussing the charming romantic musical film La La Land, released in 2016, directed by Damien Chazelle.
Bravo.
Grazie, grazie.
That was good. That was good. Not too bad, right?
Thank you. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, so we'll be covering La La Land. This is currently available on Netflix as of this recording, for those of you interested. Maybe by the time this episode releases, it won't be, but
Yeah, or if you're listening to it later, maybe some years down the line, people loving our podcast are gonna go, yeah, I'm gonna listen to this one, and like, oh, what? It's not available on Netflix. Netflix doesn't even exist anymore. I don't
yeah.
know. Who knows?
What is Netflix? What is that?
I said that it was ironic that I bought this movie because I loved this movie since I first saw it, and I think I saw it twice before I saw it again more recently. But it's a hard one for me to watch. It's not easy. When I first saw this movie, we saw it in theaters. It came out in 2016, and I was in a relationship, in a long term relationship then, and it was interesting to see it and to feel those things, and the beginning of love. You know what I mean? The beginning of a relationship, and just to see those cute moments where they're kind of clashing with each other. It's ironic, and we can get more into it. I'm sure we will get more into it.
Do you typically like musicals?
So I was going to mention that I have um, particular musicals that I do like. There are
Same.
specific ones that I like, and many that I don't like. I've basically sworn never to watch Moulin Rouge. I think you asked me if one time we wanted to cover that, and I was like, no, you'll have to cover that with Steph, because I actually I didn't swear an oath or anything, but I was just like, I will never fucking watch that movie. I'm never gonna do it. I just don't want to.
That definitely was not me because I'm not. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I don't know. It just never really piqued my attention. That or Chicago, because I know those came within like a few years of each other, if not the same year. I don't know, but I never really was drawn to either one of those. And much like you, there's few and far between that I'm just all in for. So I could
Right.
probably name the musicals I'm super into on like one hand. And I
Ah,
love Rent. The music, the story is so dramatic and it's so touching, heartbreaking. The music is super powerful and a lot of catchy songs. Pretty much like the entire soundtrack is catchy, in my opinion.
okay. Okay. I've never seen Rent, so I can't speak to that. Yeah, there are aspects that I like about it, but overall, like, yeah, it just didn't. It never really appealed to me.
Are you familiar with the director, Damien Chazelle?
Damien Chazelle. I remind me. Yeah, I forgot what he's also been in for.
So, well, I guess a little bit about his career. So, he's a big fan of musicals himself. So, having been fond of musicals, his first conceptualized idea for the film, he teams up with composer Justin Hurwitz,
Oh
I think is
right.
how you say his name, while attending Harvard University. That's kind of where they first met, and that's how they bonded. They kind of shared this equal appreciation for musicals. And I think they just, sure, there was a lot of older musicals, but I think a lot of the newer ones, it wasn't scratching an itch, you know, like they weren't really seeing what they wanted to see out of musicals, like modern
Right.
day musicals. So I think that's when they kind of conceptualized the idea for this film, La La Land, was around that time that they were attending Harvard together. So Chazelle, he was trying to pitch the idea for La La Land, and he was trying to find a studio that was actually interested in financing it. Yeah, a lot of them were like either flat out just no, we're not interested because musicals are a little bit tougher to sell to the general population, especially now.
Right.
Other studios that were interested in picking it up, they wanted to basically just rework the entire script, and he had this vision that he wanted to stick with, and so he wasn't willing to do that, and so he was just having trouble finding any takers for this movie. So he just kind of sat on the
Man,
idea for a long time.
I respect his integrity. That's awesome. I mean,
He wants it done right.
he wants it done right. The studio execs are trying to make money, and he's trying to make art, and he's trying to do something real and reach people. Man, if they had kowtowed to the studio execs, what would we be left with? Really, I don't think it would have been a fucking
It probably would have been a shell of what it is.
a shell precisely. It would have been a fucking joke, but it's instead just this beautiful love story, and again a love letter to LA as well as to jazz.
The reason why I bring up all that is because it wasn't until the success of Whiplash that Studio Summit Entertainment
Ah,
finally picked up La La Land. So Whiplash,
JK.
and which was a freaking fantastic movie. I still really love
Shit.
that movie. But yeah, Whiplash and the more recently Babylon. Babylon is another movie about like film industry and stuff like that. So
Wait, Damien Chazelle did that?
yeah,
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I didn't see that. I know Brad Pitt's in it. Is Margot Robbie in that as well?
Margot Robbie. Yeah. Was there something about this movie when you first heard about it or when you first saw the trailer that drew you in?
Always.
I would say even the name itself. I love the name of it because first off, you know, it's like a play on LA.
Yeah.
You got LA listed right there in the title, and it takes
LA
place in Los
twice.
Angeles. And then but
Yeah.
also the term La La Land, it's kind of fantasy like.
Yeah, it evokes that
It kind of helps prepare you for it to be a musical.
La La Land, and it's that alliteration, La La Land. For me, the draw was you say the name Ryan Gosling, and I'm there. I have such respect for him, and I think he's just so he is all about that subtlety. I can't even think of the word I just used before, but yeah, it's his performances are always worth watching. So that, and the fact that Emma Stone's in it and she's absolutely gorgeous and funny as well with a sharp wit. I think their
Mhm.
chemistry on screen has been phenomenal. There's a reason why they've been in so many movies together
Yeah.
and been the love interest for each other. They do have chemistry.
They do. They do. I'm not gonna lie. I will say that I was starting to get a little fatigue. I'm just like, really? Like they can they not find any other actors for this? Because I mean, I was coming off of, was it Crazy Stupid Love or whatever?
Right. Yeah, they were in Crazy Stupid Love, and
Yeah, love interest in that one. And kind of a similar dynamic too, where they kind of, they don't initially like each other, but then it's like they start like having that just undeniable attraction, and it escalates quickly.
right. Yeah. I'm not mad at the opportunity to see them play that out again. And that's, I think it's kind of funny that that's a very similar story in terms of how it goes. But again, I don't know. I guess with there's nothing new.
You knew it was gonna work.
Right. Exactly. So I knew it was going to work. And there was song and dance involved, which I hadn't seen him in. And I know that he was in the Mickey Mouse Club back when Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears were on. So I knew he had some chops when it came to singing and dancing. I mean, he was a kid then though, so it was just like, does
Yeah,
that really carry over? I feel like if you have rhythm, you have rhythm, and if you have a
sure.
decent voice, then it'll carry over. And so it was nice, and I love hearing Emma Stone's. She's got that raspy sultriness, and it's just
I don't know if she could already sing prior to this movie or if she just got vocal training for this role, but I think she does a great job. I definitely think Ryan Gosling is, maybe not as strong of a singer, but he still does a solid job.
yeah. I don't think that he really is meant to. I don't think they wrote anything to really showcase his range. His character really isn't like that. He really is more sort of sardonic, a little bit more jaded.
Yeah,
So it's not like he doesn't bring out the floral stuff, but with his dancing, he does. He really
that's
lets it
true.
out.
And that's part of what drew me in too, was in the trailer. The big showpiece was like the tap dance number, right? During Twilight overlooking LA, and that's like the cover art.
They strike that pose, right? Yeah,
I was interested in the story. I'm a sucker for a good narrative, and then you knew that the chemistry was going to work, albeit nothing new, like how you said, but it wasn't necessarily new and
right.
exciting, but you knew for a fact that they could make it work. I think all of that just combined, I'm like, I haven't seen a good musical in a while that was just drawing me in. I was actually excited to give it a shot. Since we were talking about the cast for La La Land already, and how we're saying, they have so much chemistry, I guess we'll just go through the cast really quick, the immediate cast. So
Okay.
Ryan Gosling plays Sebastian Seb Wilder, Emma Stone as Amelia Mia Dolan, John Legend as Keith, Rosemary DeWitt as Laura Wilder. Guess that's Sebastian's sister. J.K. Simmons as Bill, and Finn Whitrock as Greg. And Greg is Mia's boyfriend early on in the film. So, what's interesting about the cast is that when we're talking about the chemistry that Ryan and Emma have, they were not the original choices for this movie. Apparently, Miles Teller and Emma Watson were originally cast as Sebastian and Mia, but both dropped out. And that's when Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone stepped in.
Oh man, that's really interesting. So keep J.K. Simmons. I wonder if how early on he was a part of that
Because this
project.
did come after, yeah, Whiplash, which J.K. and Miles were both
Right.
in. So maybe the director was just like, "Hey, I love how you guys act. I want you in my new project."
It's funny because one character that you didn't mention, who is kind of like, he has a very small role in the movie, very few speaking parts, but he stuck out to me this time when I saw it. I couldn't place him, but it's her husband at the end, David. For anybody who has not seen the movie, where he really made a mark, and it's like it's a cult classic, is that Tom Hanks film, That Thing You Do. And yeah, so her husband David, he's such a sweet person, and it's not his fault that Seb, that Ryan Gosling's character and Emma Stone have this whole previous, love affair
Hmm.
in their past, and he's just there in the midst. Anyway,
Hmm. You know, before like we even start recording, I mean, I don't know. That's like something I started doing with the later recordings. Is if there's a soundtrack, then I'll kind of listen to it leading up to us actually recording. And so I was playing the soundtrack for La La Land as Michael was hopping on. Man, I think the soundtrack is pretty fucking solid from start to finish. Like right out the gate, For this movie, you know, they start off with Another Day of Sun.
Dun 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 dun. Yeah.
That's so fun because it has the structure of a play. If you've seen a musical play, oftentimes, like for Rent, without even introducing any of the characters, these are all basically just like extras. Although in plays you kind of reuse a lot of the same actors for like previous roles and or various roles, I should say. But yeah, these would be like unnamed characters, and they're the ones singing the opening number, and that's kind of how it is with Another Day of Sun, where you have a bunch of these just like no name extras, and they're all dancing and singing in LA traffic. And right out the gate, it's just like boom, it wants to let you know this is a musical, you better get ready for it. So yeah, it's got that energetic opening number. It's very positive. There's kind of a juxtaposition here because it's singing this happy-go-lucky song, but it's in such a infuriating setting, right? Infuriating in the sense that you're stuck in this gridlock traffic, and anyone who's ever driven through LA will fucking know how defeating it is to be stuck in this traffic, and you just can't go anywhere. It's just like so miserable. There's nothing to really like entertain yourself. Like it's always hot in LA. You're smelling smog. Everyone's as equally irritated, if not more, as you are. So it's interesting that like everyone like starts coming out of their cars and everyone's just like, hey, you know, like even though this fucking sucks, I guess it could be worse. And you know, they all like kind of like trade off. And I don't know, in a way it shows the worst part of LA, but also one of the best parts, which is like
The spirit of hope.
I mean, that's kind of what LA and Hollywood has always been, right? It's like that's where people go to like make their dreams come true. And
Precisely.
SoCal, even though I said it's fucking hot, like it really is just comfortable, predictable weather all the time for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. You kind of get what you pay for because it is super expensive to live here, but a lot of people would consider it paradise, really. You know, it really is. It's beautiful. I typically like to be in more cool weather, and I don't mind gloomy weather as well. So I think
Right.
I'm definitely built for more like the Northwest. But SoCal is just, if you want to go someplace where it's sunny all the time and you can just like wear comfortable clothing in comfortable weather, then that's the place to go.
Right, right. You know, going back to what you were saying before about the opening scene, I think that's so cool that you tuned into that. Like you really, the fact that you made mention of that is quite crucial. Actually, the fact that these are characters that are not main characters, and they're giving the vibe. They're kind of setting the tone for it. There's this again. There's this hope. It's really setting the stage. What it reminded me of, because you said play, you said musical play. I was like, yeah, that's right. And yeah, you're right. These are all characters that are not part of the main story, but they have the sort of spirit that's involved that's inside of the main characters themselves. And so they're expressing that in this collective way. And it reminded me of well, you said play, a musical play, therefore like a drama. I think of that, and it reminded me of the chorus. They're basically the chorus, but in the like the classical Greek tradition of what a chorus is. And so I looked it up here on Encyclopedia Britannica. The chorus in classical Greek drama was a group of actors who described and commented upon the main action of a play with song, dance, and recitation. So they're the chorus. They're playing the chorus. They are
Mm-hmm.
acting these things out and describing and commenting on the main action.
And I can really appreciate tight and complex choreography as well, because a lot of it is them playing with the functions of vehicles around them, you know, like opening doors for someone else, and then they kind of like step in and join in the song and they're dancing together. And you got someone that's like rolling over the hood of someone else's car, or someone jumping on the car behind them. And yeah, they're just incorporating a lot of just the elements around them while they're on this overpass. The way that it was so synchronized too, because you know at the end it's doing like a shot from behind where everyone's looking in the same direction as the lens is pointing, and then you know everyone like raises their arms up in the air at the same time, and then everyone just like gets back in their car and it just acts like normal. I think it was so fucking well done with how many people were involved.
Right.
I don't even know how many takes it probably took to do that, honestly.
Yeah, so many people, and who knows how long they were able to actually block that off. And so there's that time constraint as well, to get it right with fewer takes. Music is so crucial. It's gosh, if I can pull a quote out, I just have this book next to me right now. Yusuf Pieper is this amazing, is just brilliant philosopher. This book that he wrote called only the lover sings, art and contemplation. It's a thin one, but it's so dense. It takes a while to read to really fully understand. But one of the things that he says in it that blew me away, and I think is apropos for what we're talking about now, is he says, music articulates the inner dynamism of man's existential self. And
Hmm.
he goes on to say, which is music's prime matter. Another way that he describes it, he says, music does not speak of things, but tells of weal and woe, which is a quote from
Hmm.
Schopenhauer, the philosopher Schopenhauer.
I could see that. It's almost like music can explain something better than words can.
Precisely. So exactly, music reaches straight to our souls. It reaches straight to our the very core of who we are, beyond words. It gets to our emotions. So I think it's a beautiful expression of this love story. It's a brilliant drama of a movie.
Do you believe in destiny, and do you think that that's kind of like one of the main ideas that they were exploring in this movie, because they do run into each other many times? So
uh,
how big is LA just in general is a huge area.
Huge.
They were stuck in traffic. They initially met each other because, Mia was in front of Sebastian's vehicle. And when traffic finally started moving, the fact that she was just so nonchalant about it and like, oh, I want to read this letter in my car in the middle of traffic, even though traffic is moving now. Sebastian's reaction was pretty standard. It was pretty normal. He honks on the horn and then he drives up next to her, just to what a lot of people like to do. They want to see if the driver is as idiotic as they seem to be. And so, he just kind of like shakes his head at her and then drives off.
Yeah. I think that when that happens, I don't know. It's not even, she's practicing a script. That's what she's doing. So she's got the phone up as though she's on a call, but really she's practicing for the scene that she's going to do in front of these people, which, gets interrupted. It's just, oh my gosh, like ridiculous and painful to see. It's painful to watch that happen, but she's practicing in the car with the phone. She's on her way to this audition. I think with her in her car, on the one hand, yeah, are we trying to get where we're trying to go? Absolutely. And so, we get frustrated.
Everyone is, right?
Yeah, I'm dude. Just coming back from Chicago, I thought people honked their horns a lot out here. At times, a lot went out here in LA, stuck in traffic. No, dude. It's like a go-to. Some people like straight up laid on their horn. This one woman, we drove by the situation. This person was making a right turn, and I don't know what the hell was going on, but this other woman behind, it's just like some soccer mom, is like holding her hand on the horn. Dude, we were stuck in traffic for a while going the opposite direction, and I could hear that horn for another couple minutes. And it seemed to last
Mm.
so long, and you could just hear the drone, as you pass by, the frequency sounds a little bit different. So it's just like the tone of it, but it was like changed, but it was still going. I thought, wow. So again, it's just people trying to get where
Just
they're
being
trying to go.
obnoxious.
Yeah, people being obnoxious, people just thinking that they're just being so inconvenienced. I think it's ironic because they're in their world. He wants to get where he's going, and she's just in her own little world, just being like, I'm just gonna take the time to learn this thing right now. And she's nervous, and she's taking a moment. If she's gonna be stuck in traffic, she's like, well, I want to make use of this time. So she's like going through the script to do that. And then I think on the one hand, yeah, you're right. That sometimes you want to see who this asshole is that's holding you up, but at the same time, you want them to see your fucking how
That
pissed
you're
you are.
upset.
That exactly, like, get over yourself, asshole. Like, there's more people involved. Like, and he's still holding his horn as he like looks at her and is like shaking his head, like, gosh, the
Yeah.
nerve.
You wouldn't think that they would be destined for each other because they had such a negative first interaction. Actually, I would argue the second one is even worse than the first one. But it actually, like, if they can make it through that, then it's kind of all downhill from there, really.
It's true, but this goes back to what I was saying before. That quote from Yusuf Pieper: "Music articulates the inner dynamism of man's existential self." He gives a glimpse into the inner dynamism of his existential self. She comes in, and so this inner expression of himself, because this is a song he's writing. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun.
Which actually becomes like the theme song of their relationship.
Right. And it's not by accident either. It's like that's the thing that binds them, because it's his song. It's his song. It came from him. He didn't write it for anybody but himself. And because that's who he is, right? So he doesn't do things because he wants to do it for other people. He does it because it's the thing he wants to do. And she she likes that. Talk about good vibes only, you know. The vibes is short for vibrations, and sound waves are vibrations. And you know, when we go through life, we sometimes catch glimpses of each other's vibrations. It's why we were able to do this podcast. That's why, you know, your wife suggested it, is because we have a way of we have good vibes between us, and talking about movies and everything. So there's sort of a chemistry there, right? So that's
Definitely.
not, you don't have with just necessarily everybody else. And so she hears these vibes that come straight from him. These are purely him. He created this song. This is all in his head, never heard before, and she's intrigued by it. And so she comes in.
He's just playing this boring ass holiday music. No one in the restaurant is even listening to him. But then you have Mia, on the other hand, which she might arguably be in a worse situation where she's working the shitty coffee shop job, right? And then she goes to that audition, and that audition just fucking goes up in flames. Like, they couldn't care less about her, and she feels fucking embarrassed. I've been to an audition. I haven't actually auditioned, but I've been to an audition before with my friend. So growing up, he was an aspiring actor. And so he was like, "Hey, you want to come with me to LA? I want to do this audition out there." So I was like, "Cool." You know, I've never been to one. And so we walk in, and there's like this long line of people out the door, and we walk in, and he checks in at the front desk, and they asked me, they're like, "Are you auditioning too?" And I was just like, "Hell no, I'm not. I don't want to be an actor."
Is Shaniqua there? Hell nah. Shaniqua don't live here no more.
But the thing is, I was nervous just being there, and I'm not even the one that's freaking auditioning. I'm not being interviewed for this job, but I was nervous for my friend and seeing all these people, you know, aspiring for the same thing. And man, I was just thinking, like, competition is stiff.
Competition is stiff. They all look, I mean, they're all trying to fit the role. So all those redheads as well. And they're all just, you're just a number.
She's already like kind of flustered because she gets that coffee like splashed up against her shirt, so she has to wear that jacket, and she looks kind of ridiculous. And then it's funny because she walks out, you know, and she's all bummed that she kind of bombed that audition, and so she unzips the jacket, and she reveals that stain, and as she's walking past, you see all these people that look just like her, but
Yeah.
you know, some might say even prettier or like better presented than she was, and so she was just
Yeah.
kind of at
Yeah.
a disadvantage from the start. But yeah, going back to the song though, how you're saying he didn't write it for her, but I think an argument could be made that the song was for her and he didn't even know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Destiny, like you were saying before.
Like, if you ever get around to watching Rent, one of the characters in Rent, he's like this former musician that, I don't know, his life just kind of like went to shit. He's trying to write this fantastic song, right? The song that's gonna revive his career, and he's like frustrated because he's like, fuck, like he's having a mental block, and the whole movie he's kind of working on it.
Oh,
It takes someone else to kind of see him for who he is, who he truly is. She's the one that lifts him up and gives him courage to finish the song. And then the song that he was writing was kind of meant for her, and he just didn't realize it. And so I think that was similar dynamic here.
interesting. Yeah. I mean, just going back to what you said before about that sort of destiny. It's interesting because, in as much as there is that sort of, as the Greeks would say, fate, right? It was fate that brought them together. Her car got towed. Had her car not been towed, she would never have walked by and heard him playing.
Well, she wasn't even going to go out to that party to begin with. Like, her friends had to basically peer pressure her into it.
Right. So she goes, and then she doesn't have a good time at all, really. And then add insult to injury, suddenly there she is. Her car got towed, and so not only does she have to walk home,
A lot of these series of unfortunate events needed to happen.
seemingly unfortunate, right? It's like it's as though hearing him create from himself this song, this expression of himself, inspires her.
And how you're saying initially it seemed like she forgot who he was, but maybe she was so drawn to the music that she kind of just let all that go.
She remembers who he was to her, out of that blaring horn and all that stuff, but what do we really know? What does she really know? She thought she knew who he was. She thought he was an asshole, but then she hears that song. She's so moved by it that she wants to tell him, "I just heard you play," and she's so moved to say that. Like, he really did touch her, and so then she's willing to just let it all let bygones be bygones, and let their relationship start afresh.
I think that piano gig was really interesting to see because we're conditioned to, especially with romantic movies, we're conditioned for these unrealistic scenarios to happen. So it's like they lock eyes and they know that they're meant for each other right then and there, and then he goes and kisses her, but that's not what happens. He just like brushes her off in the rudest way possible, and she's just kind of like left just stunned by the whole interaction, right? There's a lot going on here. And when I was watching with Brenda, she was just like, what a fucking asshole. I think that's how they were trying to portray him, was they're trying to portray him as being like this fucking unlikable person, this jerk. But if you think of it from his point of view, he was in a tough spot. He was really frustrated and he just got fired, like you're just like, can I catch a break? Like nothing's going right for me right now. The restaurant owner Bill, he gives them simple instructions: just play these, what, like the handful of holiday tunes I tell you to play, and you're gonna get a paycheck. And he's just like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna play my original song. And he plays it knowing that Bill's not gonna like it, but then he thinks that Bill's just gonna let him get away with it, and he's surprised when he's fired. But Bill's kind of like tired of having to tell him multiple times, babysit him, like, hey, you're not doing what I'm telling you to do, so I'm just gonna hire someone who will. So I kind of see it from Bill's point of view. He's trying to run a business and he doesn't need any unpredictable circumstances happening in his restaurant. And then you got Sebastian, who's, this isn't what he wants to do, and he just kind of wants to express himself artistically. Probably just been doing these little gigs that are just soul sucking, and he's been frustrated that he can't really get anywhere. He can't get any footing to start working towards his dream, buy that club and turn it into the jazz studio, which is like his lifelong dream, right? I think when you're in such a low spot, you don't really think about anyone outside of your bubble, and takes his stuff and he just storms out the door. And so I think in that moment, he didn't really see her there. She was just like an object in his way, and he just like brushes her off.
It wasn't personal. He didn't see her and say like, fuck you too. It was just, he's just getting the fuck out of there. He's angry.
Yeah. I mean, he does address it later. Like, he did see what happened, but I think that was in hindsight. Like, in the moment, he was just seeing red, and I don't think he truly saw her standing there.
But in her defense, she didn't really know the circumstances. She didn't know what was going on. All she knew was how she felt, and she wanted to tell him that she really appreciated it. And, the looks on everybody's faces in the restaurant when he finishes, he's standing up at the piano, and there's like a spotlight on him. So then the lights open up more, and you can see the faces of all of the patrons inside the restaurant, and they're all looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he wanted so badly to perform, but really it was supposed to just be kind of like background music, not supposed to be necessarily like a concert. Right, not supposed to be a concert. It wasn't about him. It was about the food, and it was about just creating an ambiance for people. And he just really wanted to express himself, right? So like you said, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He feels creatively stunted. He wants to be able to express himself that way. But yeah, it's so funny because it reminds me, just a real quick story on that topic, but my cousin had this amazing set list ready for this Christmas party, ironically Christmas. And it was a Christmas party for these hairstylists, and he knew them because he actually, one of them was his hairstylist, actually mine as well. So he had this dope ass playlist, or set list rather, and I had been on the journey, and he looped me in, and it was going to be amazing. And I'm still waiting for this set list to be able to be played, because that night all they wanted to hear was what they wanted to hear. They wanted some reggaeton, and they wanted to just dance. They wanted the top 40 type stuff. And he, very much like Ryan Gosling, was like pissed that they didn't want to allow him to do this for me. He told them already, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create this set list for you guys. It's going to be dope. Anyway, it's a cool set list, but it just didn't, he never got to really showcase it because we were getting so much feedback. It was not unlike, J.K. Simmons basically telling Ryan Gosling, like, hey, just stick to it, stick to the stuff. Don't go Jason Waterfalls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And he hasn't even hit rock bottom yet, because months later, Mia runs into Seb again, but this time at a pool party. And there's a lot of parties going on in LA. Like
They all there
apparently
are.
that's all anyone does is just they just go to parties.
Right, exactly. Well, they're like networking, right? It's always an opportunity. You don't want to miss an opportunity because, as she was saying, like as her girlfriends were saying, look, I've got I have a bunch of scripts in my inboxes or in my inbox, and I'll set you up with it. Blah blah blah. So it's all about who you know and making
Yeah.
connections. And so
It's
that guy,
always about who you know. In any
it is,
form, like any job you get into, it's always about who you know.
yeah,
Especially starting out as an actor, like you definitely need to just you got to get your name out there one way or another.
right. And so, in a way, she very much can relate. Just thinking about it now, actually, I hadn't really thought of it this way before, but she can very much relate to him because she's used to going to these auditions for these parts that aren't really what she wants to do. Just like, he doesn't want to really be playing these silly gigs at a, doesn't want to be playing Christmas songs at a restaurant, and he doesn't want to be at a pool party playing the fucking keytar and shit.
I mean, the guitar was pretty badass for a decade.
I mean, a solid decade. But I mean, that's the last thing he really wants to be doing, dressed the way he was as well. And it's just like, so
Oh yeah.
it's so not what it's so less than what he's capable of. And I think she knows that. She knows that, she sees that. And she's just like, that's why she's the facial expressions, how like sarcastic she's being.
Oh,
It's just,
she's eating it up.
she is, but because she's seen him, she knows. It's just interesting that, again, she can relate to him through her own creative endeavors with acting, and him
Mhm.
with music.
Oh, really quick. Maybe you might remember it better, but what was that one audition that Mia went to? The one where the script was fucking ridiculous, but like she was saying these lines so seriously, and it was fucking hilarious.
It's where it's supposed to be like Dangerous Minds meets the OC. That's what it was. Dangerous Minds meets the OC, and she's like supposed to be this teacher who's like this,
Yeah.
hard ass, but can reach the kids.
What was the line though? She says something like, "No, you be tripping" or something like
You
that.
right, exactly. No, you be tripping. Oh my gosh.
Super serious expression on her face. I imagine that's how a lot of auditions go. Is like you make it what it is, so you don't really know exactly how they want you to do it, but it's like you have your own interpretation, and that was her interpretation of that scene. So some people probably could have taken in a more comedic route, but she went serious, and that line is just it's so fucking stupid, but it was hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you think that it was pretty organic the way that their relationship evolved throughout the film? Because after the party, it seems like they're both on the same page that, like, all right, we both recognize that there's some sort of chemistry here. And that's personified by the song that they sing, A Lovely Night.
Yeah,
The song is very cheeky, because they're both kind of flirting with each other, but like they're saying that me hanging out with you is a waste of this beautiful day.
exactly.
Early on in relationships, and you're like flirting, and you kind of do like poke and prod each other, and you're kind of like giving each other shit in a fun way, like in a lighthearted way, not mean spirited.
Right. Playful. Yeah, and I think that's interesting too, because after they share this whole dance scene, which, man, that's something else that's so interesting to me, is when you have that chemistry with dancing. It's so rare to have that, having gone out dancing enough myself. It's like you don't always have that. So when you see that in another person, it's almost like when you see this person dance, and when you're dancing with them, you can feel it. You can feel the flow, and it's wonderful. And again, like I said, it's not like it happens every time you go out dancing. It's
Mhm.
rare, but when you do have it, it's like time stops.
But like you felt that spark that they saw in each other as they were dancing. They start doing that like tap dance number or whatever, and
You
she
do.
switches her shoes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he was talking about the something about the heels. I forget what she mentions, but then she's changing her shoes, and he's kicking dirt her way while she's changing her shoes. Kicking dirt on her feet. Um, yeah, I think it's awesome. But what's the real giveaway here is that even though he was saying what, you realize he didn't really, he wasn't sincere when he said that this was a waste of a beautiful evening, of a beautiful sunset. He was being insincere about that, because you realize after he's walked her to her car, she thinks, oh, I'll give you a ride to your car. Not, and he goes, oh no, I'm over here. And then so she drives away, and he walks all the way back to where his car actually was, which was just in front of the house that he did the gig at. So he only went on that trip just to walk with her.
Yeah.
And so you realize that all along, even though he was saying like, oh, this is a waste of a beautiful night, he really wanted to dance with her. He just wanted to actually spend more time with her.
Get to know her, actually get to know her. Yeah, I think they realize that when, he's kind of venting to her, pulls her aside at the party, and she's just like, yeah, well, so you got something to say to me? You're gonna apologize for being an asshole before? And
I'm a serious musician, and you requested
yeah, you don't
Iran.
understand what I'm going through. But I think even then, like, they both saw that spark
It
in
was
each
a
other.
flirt.
They both felt it.
Absolutely. It was
Yeah.
just him being flirtatious, of course. Because she reaches out, she stands out in the crowd. She's not like, and you see there's a lot of beautiful women in bikinis all around the party, but none of them attract him that way. None of them.
That's not what he was looking for.
None of them touch his heart the way that she does. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's interesting about that scene too, because obviously that's one of the iconic scenes from this movie, and the cover art and everything, them dancing on that overlook. This was actually filmed outside during twilight, and I mean, if you've ever tried to take photos or videos during twilight, you know how difficult that is, because you only have like 10 minutes. Like, once you reach golden hour, dude, like, that sun goes down super fast.
Yeah.
And twilight doesn't last that long either, so they really wanted that whole dance number to be done during twilight. It looked beautiful too.
Stunning.
Like, I actually thought that was a set. I thought that was fake.
Oh.
But yeah, it was actually done outside, and they actually got that shot done on the second day and the fourth overall take.
Incredible.
With each take, once they were done, they would quickly like reset and then try to do it again. But also, like, makeup would have to make sure that they're not all sweaty and shit, because they just got doing a dance number.
Right. Exactly. Wow. Thank God they weren't with Stanley Kubrick. That would have been.
Oh, they would have been there a week.
They would have been there a week filming that just to get it that way.
Yeah.
The perfect take.
And then they would have just gone with the first one to begin with.
Yeah, maybe, but then they would have had more to choose from, and yeah. Anyway, no, that's interesting though. Under those constraints, to make something beautiful happen like that, the light is wonderful in the backdrop, and then they did a great job of making it seem so the light so cool on them, and yet still well lit. For anybody even who's like fucking done like Zoom meetings or interviews from their computer, if like even right now I'm just using light from my room that's like kind of overhead, and there's all this like shadow cast on my face, like you really have to, there's more invested in actually having really, really good lighting. So for them to make it look so easy, there's always there's always a lot of work that goes into that. So
I mean, like, I'm digging your decorations though for your set. You have that little Cabbage Patch thing behind you,
yeah,
and
the
the
Cabbage
picture
Patch
frame
thing,
and everything.
dude. Absolutely, man. It's all about the vibes, bro. It's all about those vibes. It's not easy.
Everything just screams podcasting.
It's thank you. I'm glad you appreciate that. I can't tell you all the work that went into me setting the room up this way.
You take full credit.
Full credit. Yeah, this is all Cabbage Patch Kid. Yeah, it's all me, baby. It's all me. Funny. I mean, it's just cool to see that. Yeah, I don't know. It's like one of those things. I don't even know that they knew that this was going to become an iconic scene, let alone just a shot, on the front of the movie, the poster and all that. Maybe they hoped it would be, but it's up there.
I like when things kind of organically happen that way. Last episode, I was explaining us coming up with the logo and then the title for the podcast and all that, and the theme music, and all that just happened organically. It's not like we just knew it from day one. That logo wasn't the original one, but it's what it became after just kind of fleshing out different options. And I like what we decided on. They may have had a different cover art in mind, but then when they saw that scene, they're probably just like, hell yeah, like, that perfectly represents what this movie is.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many other things. I mean, I think there are other times in the movie that could have been the movie poster as well, like when they're in the would that be called? They're in the Griffith Observatory.
In that planetarium.
The planetarium, exactly. Yeah, that the shadows of them dancing, all that stuff. I mean, that
the
could
silhouettes,
definitely.
the relationship quickly starts moving along because right after that Twilight dance number, Seb visits Mia at the her coffee shop on the Warner
Yeah.
Brothers studio lot. And it's
Right.
cool because what I liked about this whole area of the movie was that they're walking along the back lot and she's explaining her desire to be an actress and her love of filmmaking. Then he shares his passion, which is jazz music. And unsurprising to him, she's not a huge fan of jazz, but he's like determined to win her over on jazz music. So he tells her about like the club that he's going to own someday, and he invites her to a screening, something they can both share an interest in and both enjoy from their own perspectives. But he invites her to that screening of Rebel Without a Cause, and she's
Right.
excited for it. She's like, hell yeah, I haven't seen it, and if you say it's good, I trust you. Let's go watch it. And so yeah, she accepts his invitation, but this is where there's a little bit of a twist because we find out that Mia has a boyfriend named Greg.
Well, he's still right. Seb asks about him because he had heard that she, because remember he mentions to her as they're walking the Warner Brothers lot during that scene that you're talking about, where she's talking about her love of acting. She's prompted by him because he straight up asks her, "How did you get into all this?" And they have to be really quiet because now there's something being filmed right there, so they're talking in hushed tones, or she is rather, and telling her she's sharing this bit about herself. So but he asks, how's the boyfriend or whatever, and then he mentions Greg. He acts like he doesn't know, but then he says the name Greg, and I think it's brilliant that he does. I think it's brilliant that was written that way because it shows her that he's paying attention, even to that detail, even to the other man.
Which is something that Greg can't say because he knows that they're in a relationship, but is he really paying any attention to her? He drags her along to this date she doesn't want to be on, and then the entire time he's having his own conversation, not including her at all.
Right. And then she's just a pretty face, and then she's just along, and the other guy's significant other she's just like going along with the whole thing, and yeah, exactly, yeah, they're just different people. They really are just different people. No knock on him as a person, but there's not that same connection that she has
Yeah.
with Seb, and that's evident when she hears through the speakers in the restaurant. I mean, she's already feeling anxious. You could see it. It's on her face. I mean, and if the guy was at all aware, if that guy paid attention at all to her, or cared about her,
Should have noticed it, yeah.
he could tell she felt agitated. She was just putting on a brave face or whatever. But going back to what we said before about this song reaching through to her, she hears that song in her head come through the speakers, and she takes it as a sign. Finally, that's it. I'm out of here, because it makes her happy. She is feeling anxious and not fitting in with them and not really giving a shit what they're talking about. And then and so it's just building and building, and there's all this sort of like anxiety all over her face. And then suddenly she hears that song, and she smiles,
Yeah.
and it's like that's when she just knows those are the vibes, those are his vibrations she wants, not this
Mm.
guy's.
She recognized what she wanted and she broke it off with homeboy. She just straight up ditches him.
Yeah, she knew she had to. And it's really, it's listening to that inner voice. It's not doing things for other people's sake, but doing what we know to be true to us, and she knows what's true to her.
They seem like polar opposites, Greg and Sebastian, because she was at this fancy looking restaurant. He was probably gonna pay for her. Probably, maybe even he's able to pay for the entire table. He seems pretty well off. But the thing is, she's not in it for the money. Like she doesn't want someone for their money. And Sebastian
Precisely.
doesn't have any of that. But he invited her something way more lower scale. Like, hey, let's go see a movie at the shitty broke down movie theater. And she was
How
like, fuck
dare
yeah,
you?
I would rather be there than here at this fancy restaurant.
Right. Exactly. There's a deeper connection there. And rather than do the thing that seems to make sense, on paper, which is choose stability, choose the guy who's going to give you stability and security. He can provide for her, but it'll be a loveless relationship, and she can already see that. And it's like she'll just have more of that as time goes on, and maybe she can buy some nice things and live in a nice house and all that. But you can't get time back. You'll never be that age again.
It's similar to Titanic. You know, she chose this poor guy over the rich guy that she was actually with.
Exactly. There's obviously having security and stability. It means something, especially if you want to start a family. I can see a woman wanting to have that, to feel safe, to have kids and start a life. But she values something else more than that, which is that deep connection with somebody that she's attracted to, that has, I don't know, it speaks to her soul, like quite literally, actually speaks to her soul, and she has an opportunity with him. And I'm sure she's been, as you saw in the movie when they go to that first house party where her car gets towed and everything. Um, it's not as though guys aren't approaching her; they are, and some of them, they seem pretty well off. They come up and they're in their suits and everything, and she just as soon as they, like, one guy like sits down next to her, she immediately like stands up and walks away. Goes and grabs a drink or something like that. But
Yeah.
um, the point is that it's not about the money for her, like you were saying before. It's not just about that stability, and there's no knock on that. It's just yeah, I guess she just doesn't want to look back on. It seems that she doesn't want to look back on her life and wish that she had done something different. She doesn't want to just be in a stable relationship, or sorry, have the money, but not have that deep love. And
I think there's a lot to say about people that are just kind of in the same boat as well, because they're both struggling artists, you know,
they
albeit
are
different fields. But like, I
right,
think, well, what's cool about their relationship and their dynamic is that they're building each other up and they're pushing each other to achieve their own respective dreams at the same time. And I think that's what's so charming about their relationship. That's why you root for them, is because they're exactly what they needed at that time.
right. They're there at ground zero. They're not. It's not as though he's already wildly successful, and therefore is going to attract more women, and maybe they're not going to really like him for who he is, but simply because they can be, associated with somebody who's successful. It won't. In other words, it won't be a genuine connection. So they're meeting each other, like I said, at ground zero, where they're building themselves up. And it's interesting because, so here she had this guy who could treat her to this really fancy dinner out with these friends who were talking about Indonesia, just Indonesia. Oh my gosh. And they're just, going on about Indonesia.
I mean, shout out to Indonesia though.
Yeah, I would. I'm no knock on Indonesia at all. I would love to be able to visit Bali. I hear is gorgeous, but it's like it's like this sort of braggadocious thing. It's not even
Yeah.
so much like it's just for show. It feels like bringing up all these things. It's just
It's what you explained about LA. You're saying that everyone's just kind of pretentious.
yeah. I mean, I can't say that everyone is, but there's just so many people who are just trying to. They're looking out for themselves, trying to make a mark. Trying to reach this particular goal. So they try to play the role that they think other people want them to. Whatever you need me to be, I'll be that. So yeah, so you have her at dinner with this rich guy, who could take care of her, but instead she chooses the guy that is the struggling artist, like you said, and has a conversation with her mom that she wouldn't have had if it were Greg. And that conversation is on the phone, where she's basically saying, explaining Seb's situation. They're living together, I think, at that point, or at least she's spending a lot more time at his apartment. And she's explaining to her mom, no, he doesn't have a stable job right now, or no, he's between jobs or whatever. No, but he's working on. He has a vision. He has a vision. He knows where he wants to go. He's got a goal. Blah blah blah. So it's like she's going out of her way for this man, when she wouldn't have had to do that for this other guy if all she was looking for was stability, if all she was looking for was what her mom wants for her. Her mom is just doing what a mom does, which is to make sure that
Yeah,
her
she's all right.
her little girl's taken care of. Yeah, that she's going to be okay, and is gonna have all her needs taken care of.
Yeah, Mia didn't grow up in LA. She explains later that she moved from, was it like Nevada or Arizona or
Nevada.
something like that? Nevada. She pursued LA to achieve her dream of acting. It's a risk. So many people, they flock to LA thinking that they're going to make it big, and a lot of them end up failing. You know, that's just kind of the nature of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I mean, you hope that you might stand out from the crowd. You hope that you've got what it takes. But I mean, you have somebody like John Hamm, who had been acting for years and years, and it wasn't until he was around, I think it was like 32 or 33 that he finally got landed Mad Men. I think that's how old he was, around 32, 33.
Isn't that funny how that happens for a lot of actors? Is they don't find success until much later in life.
Yeah, it is interesting. I know Mark Ruffalo started making it big later in his life as well, and yeah, it's a grind. And again, there's no guarantee. There's just all sorts of variables there. Yeah, so she chooses to go to that movie instead that he recommended, and so yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. That's pretty awesome though.
It shows their fun dynamic too, because they go to the movie theater and they're watching the movie, but then the movie projector malfunctions, and so the movie's fucked. That's not the end of the date, though. Let's make a night of it. And so they end up going to the Griffith Observatory, which would have totally been closed by that point. I don't know how the hell they got in,
Ha,
but they
it's
get
true.
in and they start, just exploring the observatory, and then they make it to the planetarium. This is such a visually striking scene. Like, what was your take on the scene? Because this was very fantasy like. It's fantasy where they start floating and they're dancing among the stars and everything.
Hmm.
It's almost a representation of how they feel about each other. Like,
Yes,
they're just kind
yes.
of so over the moon that it feels unreal.
They're in another world. Exactly. They've created this world with themselves and with each other, and they're just swimming in it, reveling in it. I think it's beautiful. And when I first saw it, I was just, again, I was swept up in it. It was wonderful. And there they are dancing. You can see their silhouettes dancing as they're moving through the universe and approaching Jupiter, and just doing this. They're doing what looks. I mean, I don't know the terms well. I think it's like a waltz though, because they're spinning and
Mm.
spinning and spinning, and then
Hmm.
he twirls her, and then they're spinning again together in step.
The visuals for this part of the movie, top
Yeah.
notch.
Oh,
The representation, I don't know. It's kind of unexpected, but it was a welcome surprise.
because it's set in a world that is so realistic. It definitely is unexpected, but such a beautiful way to convey what's happening inside of them. And I think in times when I've watched it, I think this is either, like I said, my third or fourth time actually watching it. I think it might just be my third. The first time I saw it, I just saw what happened and I was just caught up in it. The second time it happened, I was thinking about the Wire team, but like, how did they do this? I was thinking about the how now because I knew it was coming.
Because he like lifts her up, right, and she floats
Yeah, he just
away,
kind of, and then she starts to float away, and then he does,
light
and
as a
I'm looking.
feather.
So like exactly. So now I'm looking at their clothes, and I'm looking for the puckers. I'm looking for something that's like, how are they being hoisted up? And so I did that again, knowing it was going to come up this time. But then I was more cognizant of that thought process this time, and I was able to just kind of let it go and just accept what was happening again instead of pulling myself out of the drama to analyze it. I just kind of let myself go there. Sometimes though, I think I'll say this: when gosh, what scene was it that got me, like, really, that hit me hard? Yeah, I think it was the lead up to that moment. I actually paused the movie and had to take a break. I was eating dinner, and so I paused it real quick, washed the dishes, and then anyway, I felt I just got so swept up in it again because for me the memories are of being there in that moment, of having that new love, and all those learning, getting to know the person and feeling that
Mm.
chemistry in the back of my mind, knowing that it's going to end for them, knowing for myself that it's ended before for me as well, remembering the person that I was with when I first saw this movie, and how that didn't work out, but how much I still love that person, and how sad I am that things didn't work out. I don't know. It's all of that and unprocessed grief of the loss of mourning that I didn't allow myself to have, and so agreeing to watch this movie was not easy. I knew that it was good, and I remember telling you like, "Oh, that's going to be a tough one." And I'm really
Hmm.
glad actually that we got to do this, the two of us. I know that we were going to have another friend of ours join us, but I was like, I don't know if I can go there with him because I don't know him as well. But with you, I feel
Mm.
like, oh, I could be
More
that
candid.
vulnerable, more candid, yeah. Because this movie definitely requires a willingness to be vulnerable. Otherwise, you miss so much, all the nuances, all the subtleties, because oh, I can't show them that I'm going to cry or get choked up. Like, I've already gotten choked up several times just thinking about it. But
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's a powerful thing.
yeah, so they do such a good job of getting you swept up. And I think that's what it is for me, is feeling the joy, seeing it in her eyes, and then immediately in my mind juxtaposing that look in her eyes of wonderment, of love, with juxtaposing that with, at the very end, the sort of the pain and the sense of loss. There's that shared grief.
I think it's super important to show stuff like this, like how much they have fallen in love with each other, because it gets you invested in the relationship. Not long after this, things start kind of getting rough for them. That's kind of what you're alluding to before, when she's on the phone with her mom, kind of explaining her decision to pursue this relationship with Seb. And this is following a lot of failed auditions, like a lot. And so, as I was saying, they're perfect for each other because they're what each other needed at that time. They're both struggling, and who better to see where they're at and what they're feeling than each other, because they're both in the same spot. So he encourages her to, fuck all these auditions that you're going to. You should just make a play and you will be the star, because I think like you do great in that. And so she takes him up on that idea and she starts developing that. Meanwhile, when she's on the phone and Seb overhears her talking about him, and she's defending him, she's like, no,
She
like
is.
he's getting everything in line, and things are going to start turning around for him. I know it. I believe in him. But he feels guilt, like he feels like, man, I'm holding her back. I'm the one that's like dragging everyone down. And so I think that's when, in one of their date nights, they run into Seb's former bandmate, Keith. He invites him to this new band, this new gig that he's starting up. He thinks that Sebastian will be a great fit because they need a keyboardist, and not just any keyboardist, but a skilled one. He's perfect for the job, but he'd basically be selling out. That's not what he really wants to do. He really wants to do this. He wants to start his own jazz club. For Mia, he has to just kind of take the bullet for the team. And
Right.
he almost turns into a sellout.
I don't know if I would say that he's necessarily holding them back, because, like you said before, they're both in the same place. But what it is, as a man, you feel the need to be the provider, and he really does love her. He doesn't want to lose her. So, not just doesn't want to lose her, but he wants to be the man as well. Like it's like wants to rise to the occasion, wants to be the provider. Whereas before he met her, he would never really have. He would have stuck to his guns and tried to be this like lone wolf and do it on his own terms. But without her actually ever asking him to, he just feels compelled. He feels
He took
driven
it upon
to
himself.
do this thing. Yeah, to take it upon himself and to sell out finally, so that he can make the money. Because she said something like, I think he's saving up.
Yeah, kind of this loser guy that she has to lie to her mom about.
I get from her, like I said before, it's complex, because I get from her mom's perspective, she's looking out for her daughter and she's defending him because she both loves him and she sees his potential, which is also what's tied up in that glance that they have at the very end, where they look into each other's eyes from a distance. But it's almost like it's an acknowledgement that they, not only did they have this great love, but that they were right to believe in each other. But again, it's like him just feeling like, fuck. Not that he's fucking up, but that he's like, damn, I'm going to have to make a change here. This wasn't part of my plans, but she's in my life now. He's planning a life around her. He starts going against what it is he really wants to do. And that's when, now they're apart. Now they're not spending as much time together at the apartment. You see she's drawing up, she's painting sets and everything. And so he comes home from his gig, and all her paperwork's kind of scattered on the floor, from the play and then the paints and everything. And then he just, he lays in bed next to her, but not holding her. He just lays in his bed on top of the covers, fully dressed, and she's under the covers.
You can tell like there's starting to be some distance there a little bit.
They're starting to distance. There's not the same time being spent with each other, because he's on the road a lot, so she's not able to even really share what's going on with him. And if you notice, it's him that has his back to her when they're laying in the bed. She could spoon him, if they're going to do big spoon, little spoon kind of thing. They're both facing the same direction, but his back is to her and she's under the covers. It's like, it's very symbolic. He's not under the covers with her. He's not sharing with her what happened and everything. He's resentful. He resents her, even though she never asked it of him. He resents that she is in his life and that he can't be who he thinks he can't express himself. he's, like I said, he's sort of blaming her for that, even though it's not her fault.
He might be a little envious too because she's still pursuing her dream while he just flat out put his on
Right.
hold. He may
He's like,
never
must be
never even
nice.
get back to it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. He's like, must be nice kind of thing. Exactly. Like, oh yeah, I'm over here making money, $1,000 a week at the very least, which is what he agreed to and some other stuff.
I think it was kind of cool though. I mean, steady form of income, and that's basically what it's all about. It's just like it's like when you work a job that's not your passion, but hey, it's steady income and it's paying the bills right now. But I think what was cool about this too was that even though there was some distance between them, they still had these little moments of how they felt about each other early on in the relationship. Like they're reminded of that, and that's portrayed when they're both singing City of Stars, because he's at the piano and
Right.
he's just playing by himself, but then she comes over and that starts bringing them back together, closer together, and they start bonding again over the music. They're singing the song and it's sweet. I think that might be my favorite song of the movie, was when they're both singing City of Stars.
Yeah. Our dreams, they finally came true.
They're starting to giggle a little bit, they're starting
Yeah.
to have fun again.
Yeah. Well, it's bittersweet because it's dying, like, that their love is slowly starting to fade, like the sun setting that night that they danced together, the dying embers of the day. This is the dying embers of their relationship.
And the band does find success. Mia, I think she goes to one of the concerts and she's surprised at what the band actually is and what kind of music it is, because I think she had a different idea of what it is that the band was going to be and what Sebastian was going to be doing. But I think the audience was originally supposed to think that Sebastian was just going to be flat out miserable doing this gig. What was interesting was that Sebastian was able to find joy in it. Like, you can see him and, like, he looks goofy or whatever, and he has like three sets of keyboards or whatever, and they all do different things, different sounds. It's pretty simple. It's not very challenging for him. He's just basically playing like one note the entire time. But it looks like he's able to enjoy it for what it is, even though it's not his dream gig.
I guess he's not being honest with himself, and he's not being honest with her, and she knows that. She can see it because this isn't him. Yeah, he does smile, but I don't think he's genuinely enjoying himself. I think he's enjoying himself only insofar as he's reaching, quote unquote, a level of success. He's doing the thing, he's being successful at the thing that he thought would keep them together. Isn't that, that's part of what's heartbreaking about the whole thing, is he's doing it for her. And so even though when he smiles, he smirks or whatever, it's like, it's not because he's got all these other girls that are, dancing around, because they're showcasing that piece too. Very symbolically, the crowd is pushing her back. They're kind of pushing toward the stage, and she's getting kind of funneled backwards. I remember her being surprised when the tune changes from what he starts it off with to then being more like pop music,
Hmm.
and
Heavy synth.
heavy synth, and being all, yeah, it's like, it's so not him. It's like exactly what she saw him doing. I mean, it's very similar to what she saw him doing at the party, at the pool party, only
Bigger scale.
right, it's a bigger scale, and more importantly, he's also putting on he's actually smiling about it. But she knows him so well, she knows that he doesn't like this at all, and so but what she doesn't know, what's unspoken, is that he's only doing this for her sake.
Well, I mean, not long after that, the band has their first tour, and Sebastian's kind of gone for a bit, but comes back, and they have this seemingly nice romantic dinner. Sebastian surprised Mia when she gets home. She's happy to see him, but then Mia she can't let it go. She has to bring up the how she really feels about Sebastian being in the band. She's accusing him of giving up on his dreams, while Sebastian gets defensive, and he claims that she only liked him when he was unsuccessful. So, whose side are you on?
I'm on her side because what he said isn't true. That's a lie. Yeah, he it's not about him being unsuccessful, or him being unsuccessful before and all that stuff. I think it's like, it hurts him because he's done it for her, and rather than just say that's what he did,
He
he
attacks
gets
her back.
defensive. He gets defensive. What she says stings.
It's tough. Like I see from both sides. Like she couldn't just enjoy the time that they had together, and she had to kind of ruin the moment. She felt she needed to get that off her chest, and she felt very strongly about it, and she needed to let him know. Him at the same time, I think seeing it from a guy's perspective, he was just like, listen, I wanted to surprise you. I just want to have this nice dinner, and you start an argument. So fuck it. Like the night's already ruined. So I'm just going to attack you back type of thing. I mean, I've been in situations like that myself where it's like you have good intentions initially, but then it just kind of like spirals into something else.
Yeah, I mean, they stop being genuine with each other. That's what really it comes down to. Or at least, she, I don't know if she necessarily was trying to pick a fight, as it was just her being concerned. First of all, she's hurt. See, they're both not really being sincere with each other about, aren't being genuine with each other about what's really bothering them. Maybe they're not realizing what's really bothering them. It's hard sometimes to be that honest with ourselves, to be so self-aware with the emotions that we're experiencing. She is feeling lonely. She's feeling that they're growing apart from each other. And so what she's not saying in those words is, I want you near me. I want you to be, I want us to be us again. And you're not even doing something you really like. And so sure, yeah, you're making more money, but look, she wasn't even in it for the money. She didn't want it. I mean, she could have stayed with fucking Greg for that matter if all she wanted was money. That's not what she cared about. She cared about
Mm-hmm.
being with Sebastian and sharing her life with him. And now they're not sharing a life together. They're sharing a space together, really. And he's not around very often. So then he's not being honest with her about how he really feels, because now he's doing the thing that he thinks a guy is supposed to do. And the fact that she kind of throws that in his face, and she doesn't really throw it in his face, but he perceives it to be that way.
He's kind of blindsided by it because he didn't even know that she had that much of an issue with him being in the band. And so he's just like, where is this all coming from? You know, like what the fuck is going on here? It escalates pretty quickly.
Right, because, and that's why I think it's precisely that surprise. It's precisely, again, it's his perception. He thinks that's what women want is he's like, I got to give her the stability. It's not enough to give her this love, because at the end of the day, love doesn't pay the bills. And it's her mom that said those words. It's her mom that was basically looking out for her daughter's security, her protection, all that stuff. It's not Mia that ever asked that of him, but it's his assumption that that's what she would want, since every woman, quote unquote, every woman would want that or wants that. But she believes in him, and I think that's kind of what's insulting to him, or insulting to her. She believes he's capable of more, and that he can do it more on his terms, because here it's almost like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's telling her, do it your way. I believe in you. You can do it your way. But then he's like, do as I say, not as I do. That's basically what it's like. He's like, do as I say, do it your way. But I'm going to do it this other way. I'm going to sell out. I'm going to do my version of shitty auditions, so to speak.
Well, I mean, he fucks up bad though. The relationship's already in a bad spot. Seb is doing Seb's with the band, and he finds out that there's this photo shoot he totally forgot about, and that's the night of Mia's opening one woman play. He misses the opening night. That's just inexcusable though, being in the relationship. You really couldn't postpone that photo shoot or just say like, hey, add me in later or something, like you can take photos of the band now and then just tomorrow, like I'll show up and then we can just fucking add me in the photos, whatever, no big deal. But no, he chose the band over her, and he ends up missing the play entirely.
Yeah. Again, it's
That was basically the final nail in the coffin.
it was.
The one person she felt she could rely on to show up didn't even show up. No one showed up really. That was like the biggest blow to her self-confidence. She was pretty much done after that. She was defeated in every sense of the word.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so. While it wasn't the right choice to make as far as their relationship goes. He looks at that band as, this is the success. I'm going to need this in order to, he lost sight. That's all. He really just lost sight of his reason why.
Yeah.
He forgot that he was only doing this for her sake.
And then it's like, what was he doing? Like, he missed her play.
for a photo shoot.
The dumbass photo shoot. Remember when the photographer's like, all right, so point your hat down, and then bite your lip a little bit, and like look up, like point your chin up. It was so fucking ridiculous and stupid, and that's what he was missing the play for.
He's so resentful that he's leaning harder into this. This is what I have to do. This is what, oh yeah, cool. I've already sold myself out. Like, what else is there? You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, fuck it. I'll sell out all the way.
He ends up showing up super late. The venue's already closed, and she walks out, she's bawling, and she breaks up with him. She breaks up with him right there, says she's moving out and going back to her parents' house, and she's giving up on her acting dreams. He just accepts it, like, I think he wants to let her make her own decisions, but he also doesn't go after her. He doesn't fight for her.
Again, fight for more of what though? Fight for, she's changed in his mind's eye. She's the wedge. She's the thing keeping him from pursuing his goal. Because were it not for her being in his life, he wouldn't give a shit about trying to make money or be successful. He in terms of just money, he would have wanted to just be successful in terms of making his kind of music that he wants. Wouldn't have cared about, saving money. I think he's saving money. He wouldn't have cared about all that shit. So in a way, it's like he's removing the thorn from his side, or what he perceives to be the thorn from his side, because now he doesn't have that person to have to worry about anymore, or be a reminder to him of what he's not doing by pursuing his own dreams. Because here she is pursuing hers, like you said.
I don't know how long it was that they're kind of like separate from each other, but there's like remnants of her around the apartment. He's living there by himself, and just to go over his own thoughts in his mind. And don't you still see a glimpse of that logo that she came up with? Because when he was talking about he wants to open up his club, his jazz club, he wanted to call it like something dumb, like chicken on a stick or some shit. And she's like, no, I think you should do this. Like, it should just be called Sebs. And she makes like this like little outline drawing, and he's like, oh, that's kind of cute. You, for the apostrophe, you made a little music note. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think like things that Mia made in preparation for her one woman play, and so all that stuff is still kind of there. And he's just kind of a husk at that point. Like, he shows up, gets paid, comes back, and just like sleeps all day. But
Yeah.
I think he thought he was also done with that relationship up until he receives that call. So he receives that phone call for Mia, and it's the casting director. Was one of the like handful of people that actually attended the one woman play, and said he wanted to bring her in for an audition. Instead of saying like, fuck her, like, I don't know where she is, but I don't even care if she ever gets back in acting, like, he springs up and he's just like, oh shit, this is huge, this could be huge for her. It kind of like relights that fire within him.
Yeah. What I'm seeing more clearly now is, it's not as though he hates her. He feels apathy, and apathy is like one of the heaviest emotions. It is the heaviest emotion. It's even lower than grief. Like there's apathy is the lowest, and then there's grief, and then there's fear. And for him, being in apathy, it's sort of like he lets it all happen. Apathy isn't feeling nothing. When you feel, it's feeling numb, right? He feels numb. You see him come back to the apartment, things are still the same there. He hasn't taken the time to actually put things away. He just goes there to sleep, and then rinse, repeat, goes back, does his gig and everything. So apathy is numbness, and it's not feeling nothing. It's actually feeling everything all at once. It's a lot of unprocessed emotion. And so it just stays there because you're not processing it. And so, yeah, so when the opportunity comes along for her, he still loves her. He still loves her. And it was just confusing. He's feeling everything all at once, because he was feeling resentful toward her because he thinks, I did this for her sake, and were it not for her, I wouldn't even be selling out like this. But on the other hand, like, he did it for her, and he was trying to build a life with her. So yeah, it makes sense that he wasn't over her. He didn't want to be over her. If he wanted to be over her, if he really thought the relationship was over, he would have gotten rid of all that shit, done away with that. We're good. We're like, what?
Exactly. That's what I thought too, was like, he could have easily just been like, I don't know where she is. She doesn't live here anymore. Boom, click, and that would have been fucking it. That would have been the final nail in the coffin for Mia's acting career. Mia wasn't going to pursue it anymore herself. It kind of took Sebastian to give her that push that she needed. This like almost resurrected Sebastian in a sense. Like he even had to drive all the way the fuck out of state and track her down. He doesn't even know where Mia's parents live, across the street from a library or something. So he locates that library, drives to that, and then he just honks his horn until someone comes out, and it happens to be Mia. Then he tells her that, I know you said you're not going to act anymore. I just got this call from a casting director and you need to go. Obviously, she's just like, no, I'm not going to that. I already told you I'm not acting anymore. I'm done with that. Going back to school, whatever, maybe pursue a different career. And he said, fuck that. Like, you need to go to this because you don't know what's going to happen unless you try. I think he really felt that this was going to be her big break. This is cool because this is leading up to the climax of the film right here. He basically like forces her into going to the audition because she really doesn't want to go, but he's like, listen, I'm going to be here tomorrow 8 on the dot. You better be here, otherwise I'm not doing anything for you anymore. And so it was actually kind of funny because he thought she was just going to let this opportunity go, and so he was about to drive off, and then she was just like, whoa, I got us coffee. He was trying to play it off like he wasn't gonna leave her. A little bit of levity, but this actually is a dramatic part of the film right here. This might be the most dramatic part of the film. A fucking tearjerker, to say the least. I was pretty beat up by the scene. The audition. So Sebastian and Mia go to the audition. Mia's expecting it to go just like all the others. I think this is what really sets her apart from the other auditions, is that she felt like she didn't have anything else to lose. She didn't have anything. You know, fuck it. I'm just gonna show you my real self. And this was also an interesting audition because the directors were like, we don't want you to play a character. We just want you to tell us a story because we're gonna build this TV show. Is it a TV show or movie? Well, they're going to build this project around the character. Just tell us a story, any story. And so Mia decides to tell a story about her aunt, a former stage actress who eventually died from alcoholism. But the aunt was the one that inspired Mia to chase her own dreams of being an actress. And this is where the song Audition, The Fools Who Dream, comes in. This was a fucking intense song right here in so many ways because Mia put all of her emotions into it. She was completely vulnerable. She just let it ride. However,
Right.
she needed to be, like, however she felt, she let it all out. She was completely transparent. What was cool about this part, the song, was that director Damien Chazelle, he let Emma sing this part live while he was recording it. And so she wasn't lip syncing with the recorded song. So he let her sing this part in the scene. And composer Justin Hurwitz, he was playing piano into an earpiece alongside her while she was singing this.
Oh.
Giselle wanted it done this way because he wanted Emma to have more control over the scene. So I guess like what felt right for her,
Ah.
controlling the motions of that scene.
That's brilliant. Yeah, it adds more texture and more of that improvisation we were talking about before for her to express herself or what the
And really become that character too.
I don't know, it's just so raw. Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what made that scene even more powerful, was that Emma was just as emotional during that scene because she was that character, like full on.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my allergies were acting up around that scene. I don't know, like my eyes just kept watering for no reason.
Yeah. Damn. Why did we agree to do this movie? On so many levels.
After the audition, you don't see how the casting directors reacted to it. You don't really hear what words were exchanged after the performance. It just
Mm-hmm.
cuts right to Sebastian and Mia kind of discussing like how it went. Seb feels very confident that the audition went well, and he selflessly encourages her to put the relationship on hold for now and completely devote herself to acting because he wants her to be successful at this. He doesn't want her to let this opportunity go by and have to worry about him. He's just saying, like, right now, just focus on yourself. Like, don't worry about me. I'll still be here when you get back. You're going to do great. And she did. She did great. Like, she got the job. She went off to do her acting gig for, was it like 5 years or so? Something like that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Sebastian saw no other option here? Do you feel like he felt that it needed to be this way?
Huh. It's an interesting question. I think if he thought there were another option, I think he would have exhausted that. I just think he wanted to do the selfless thing. He didn't want to be the thing holding her back, like you said earlier, where he you said that he thought he was holding her back when her mom was questioning her over the phone, or not questioning her, yeah, questioning her about him over the phone. Yeah, he just didn't want to be somebody keeping her back. And I think again that goes to that's sort of like the resentment thing. Like he didn't want her to maybe feel that resentment, because he knew that he felt resentment whether he said so or not. Like he felt resentful, and he didn't want her to feel that way toward him.
And the fact that he still wasn't really able to pursue his dream at that moment. So maybe he felt that he didn't want Mia to have to keep almost stifling her own career, just so that way he would be all right with it. You know, he would feel all right about himself. She could devote herself 100%, stay focused, and really just become as successful as he believed she could be.
Yeah, do the thing that I can't do right now.
And I really believed that he thought she was going to go out there for 5 years, do her thing, come back. 5 years later, Mia's now a famous actress and she's married. And this fucking reveal, man, I was crestfallen. Holy shit.
Yeah,
This
me
this was
too.
fucking emotional, man. And like that, I
Yeah,
loved it, the way that they did the reveal, because they, you know how I was saying before, they kind of show the back of his head. That's her husband.
yeah,
She hugs and kisses him. You quickly realize that's not Ryan Gosling. That's not
yeah,
Sebastian. Fuck, she got married. Oh, damn. And then it pans over and they have a child, and you're just like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
yeah. That's for keeps. Yeah, that's nail in the coffin. The coup de grace.
Yeah. Man, that was, even though like as painful as that was to watch, that was so awesomely done. I really enjoyed just like the storytelling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is just the so intentional. Like a good song leads you there, messes you up. Yeah, that was yeah, I remember watching it the first time, just completely I was in shock for like I immediately did not like the guy.
Even though you said he's such a likable guy.
Cuz yeah, exactly, but it's funny cuz I've seen the movie like I said like 3 times now, and it was only this third time that I realized immediately who he was and made the connection. Made the
Mm,
connection. I was like, "Holy shit,
okay.
that is Spartacus." That's not his name in that thing you do, but that's who he says. He always says about himself, "I am Spartacus." And he says it all funky like that. I am Spartacus.
And you know what? The fucking waterworks don't stop there during their date night. They're late to their reservation, so they just say, you know what? Let's change up our plans. Let's just ditch it. We'll have a little spontaneous night and see what happens. So they find how we're talking about before, when they're walking back to their car, they didn't realize that they were parked in front of a like a little hidden jazz bar underground. The husband is the one that hears the music first, and again, I think this was destiny, you know, because they could have easily gotten in the car, driven off, and she would have never known. But he pulls her into the bar, so she's just like, all right, you know, we'll stop by, maybe have a drink or something, and then we can, you know, we can head home, because we don't want to have the babysitter stay too late. So they go down. This fucking storytelling, this was expertly done. I loved every bit of this. Also, it fucking crushed me. Just when I didn't think
Yeah,
my heart could be crushed anymore,
yeah.
they kind of descend down into the underground club.
Well, she sees them on the
Yeah,
wall.
she makes that turn. The husband obviously isn't going to recognize it, so he walks into the bar. She stops dead in her tracks because she recognizes what's on the wall. And it's the
Yeah,
logo. It's the Seb's logo, all neon, with like exactly how she drew it. Exactly how she drew it for
exactly.
Sebastian, with like the little music note and everything. I bet she hadn't thought about that in fucking years, right? She probably completely forgot she even drew
Yeah,
it. But then that just brought her back immediately. So she actually goes into the club. You know, the husband, he's totally oblivious to everything. So he's like, yes, this is a pretty cool club. You know, this is kind of nice. Kind of glad that we stumbled across this.
yeah,
And I think this was something that Sebastian was probably excited to show her when she got back. He probably worked his ass off for those 5 years and was like, I'm gonna fucking make something of myself. And when she gets back, she's gonna be so proud of me. It's gonna be great. And she was. But the thing is, situation's different now.
yeah.
They sit down, and she's just waiting for it. She's almost like kind of like terrified of what's gonna happen next because she knows what's coming. They have like the band playing, and once that number's over, the host walks up, and it's the owner of the bar, Sebastian himself. He's like introducing the band again to the crowd, and they just connect, right? Sebastian and Mia, they lock eyes. I think right there he immediately just realized that what I envisioned, that's kind of over. That was just fantasy. That
Yeah.
wasn't something that was realistic anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when he plays that song. I think the way I interpret it, I don't know if that was how it's supposed to be, but I think they both were envisioning at the same time what life would have been like had they stayed together. They were like in sync again at that moment. And
Yeah.
obviously it was a fantasy because a lot of stuff would have needed to be conveniently happening in that order. Her one woman play was a success, and then Sebastian was there to congratulate her on the success of the play, and then she gets a different gig and they fly to Paris. And does he
He plays in jazz clubs
that's
out there
right.
too.
Yeah, he becomes a successful musician out there, and he's actually playing music that he prefers and that he enjoys doing. While she's becoming this successful actress, and then they get married and they have their own family, and he's actually a good parent from what it looks like, and they're both happy with being with each other. It's all what ifs. Like we all go through it today. That could have been a
Right.
possibility, but that just wasn't reality.
Exactly. Which was just, I think it was brilliant for them to do that for Damien Chazelle to film it this way, because it just makes it hurt that much more.
To show that, you fucking asshole, you really have to show that. You really have to just
Yeah.
twist that knife, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine, because he builds it up. It's not even just like it's such a quick moment. It's like he builds up this whole world where they actually end up together, and you see this beautiful child that they have, and all these experiences of traveling together to Paris. I mean, such a romantic city. Basically, having their cake and eating it too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're swimming in it, and the music, you feel like you're swirling in the 35 millimeter camera style action. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
it's so nostalgic, and the music again just swelling to a crescendo, all
Mm-hmm.
just to be brought back to just the single piano, the reality of
Beautiful and heartbreaking all in one.
exactly. Suddenly it's just him solo, just with one hand on the
That one
keys.
key, yeah.
Dun 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 dun. But he's like, it's so heavy. He's not just lightly. He's not playing it pianissimo. It's not like it's not really lightly on the keys.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you feel the hammer falling with each press of the key.
Yeah.
Bum 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 bum
It's like
bum
getting
bum
slower and slower,
bum
yeah.
bum 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 bum. Just repeats that same thing,
Yeah.
hangs in the tension. No one ends up in claps or anything like that. It's just, it just dies.
That was kind of like him. Well, I think both of them just kind of realizing that that was the end of their relationship. Mia and her husband, they decide, all right, we got to head back, but she stops in the doorway, before leaving, and Sebastian's still sitting at the piano. I think he doesn't want to face her because it would
Yeah.
be too painful. He musters up the strength to, just give her one last look, and she also musters up the strength to look back as she's leaving.
Uh-huh.
They lock eyes one more time from across the club. There was so much said in that 1 second look that they gave each other, as painful as it is to lose someone that you love so dearly. He was happy for her. He was genuinely happy for her because all he ever wanted was for her to be happy. And he
Yeah.
was glad that she had a great life. This is where she needed to be. It was cool because they both got to achieve their dreams. It
Yeah.
was bittersweet because they couldn't achieve their dreams with each other. And so he
Yeah.
gives her that smirk, and then, he gives her a nod as in like, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're okay. And, she appreciates that.
Yeah.
That was the closure that they both needed. Yep, she leaves, and that was the end of the movie. Man, powerful movie. Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many allergies.
So many all of the allergies, dude. All of them.
Great movie,
Yeah.
though. Man, fantastic movie.
It is.
Again, man, I'm a sucker for good storytelling, and that was a fantastic story.
It is. That's why I didn't just rent it. I straight up bought that movie. I was like, I know I'm gonna want to watch this movie again. It's that good. It's worth owning. I don't know when I'm gonna want to watch it again, because damn, as good as the music is and everything, it's like, as good as the music is and the acting and the love story, it's like just the heartbreak. It almost feels like going back and reading love letters from, past lover.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, because I mean, then you're here, and they're no longer in the picture, but all you have is this love letter, this memory.
Hmm. Life can be beautiful if you're willing to take that risk and be one of those fools who dares to dream.
Yeah.
You could play it safe and you could be happy with that too, but
But at what cost?
yeah, exactly. That is a wrap on La La Land. If you made it to the end of our podcast, then you get to dance among the stars in Griffith Observatory.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or closing comments?
I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm gonna cry. That movie's rough.
That's good. See, it's authentic. You're being your authentic self.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not afraid to say that I was definitely tearing up watching this movie. But that's what I love about it.
yeah. That's true. That's why I was willing to go. That's why I bought it too. It's just like, in a world where you watch all these movies and it just feels so fucking like cookie cutter, or it's rare that you find a movie that can make you feel something
Yeah.
like that. So to own it is something. It's to have it so that I can always go back and rewatch it. Yeah.
And damn, that film score was fan fucking tastic. Justin Hurwitz did an amazing job. He killed it.
Oh, he did. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I just marveled at the music. Actually, I was just like, wow, just get he just, these tunes, everything. It's just phenomenal.
I definitely appreciate it more just listening to the soundtrack by itself without even watching the movie. I was listening to it on my way to work a couple times, and I'm just like, this music is great. I didn't even give it enough credit or recognition the first time I watched this movie.
Oh, dude, I feel you on that. It's been a long time since I've actually sat down and listened to the soundtrack, but when it came out, I was definitely playing that a lot, and I was trying to. I remember singing some of the songs. I knew some of the words by heart. "City of Stars," I remember knowing by heart back then. I think I chose to jettison those lyrics out of my mind after that relationship ended, because it was just too painful to go there.
Hit too close to
And
home.
I just hit too close to home. But I have a different perspective on these things now, and that perspective is that it's important to go there. It's If you don't process that emotion, then it will always haunt you, and I don't want it to. I feel like this is a treasure of a movie, and I've stayed away from it for all these years because it was so painful to go to. And yeah, I was getting like that hitch breath kind of thing going, where it's like, I could feel it, and I was
Yeah.
washing my dishes and tears were streaming, and I was just like, dang, it's gonna go there. It's gonna go there. It's real. And I was just like, I gotta just let it happen, just let it happen, because otherwise, like I said, it'll always be trapped inside me and
Mhm.
haunt me.
I was glad that Sebastian and Mia were recast because I don't know if I would have felt the same if it was Emma Watson and Miles Teller. I don't know if it would have been as impactful.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, they could have pulled it off. Who knows? I guess we'll never know, actually. But beautiful performances and a great movie.
Shout out to Ryan Gosling too, because apparently he spent 2 hours a day, 6 days a week with piano lessons to train
Playing,
for this movie.
yeah.
And by the time filming began, he was able to play the music by heart. And the music was recorded by a professional pianist for the actual soundtrack, but during filming, he was actually playing the real parts.
Oh wow. Yeah, I had heard that he really learned to play the piano, and yeah, seriously, kudos, much respect.
What else can I say about this movie? Like, love the visuals. Like every time they kind of ventured off and got a little bit more artistic with it and more daring. Like I thought that was fantastic. Like even towards the end when they're doing the little like montage of the what if fantasy, they're mixing a lot of different visual effects together because it's like you had like those little cardboard cutouts and they were like kind of like moving from like left to right, and that was like representing them traveling. It, it was really cool. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. All of it.
Before we go, do you remember that embarrassing moment at the Academy Awards several years ago with this movie?
Dude, I
We
was like, I
have
hope
to
we don't
mention that. We
even.
have to.
No, dude, it broke. Dude, that was like almost as heartbreaking as the movie itself, where Moonlight actually won,
Yeah.
but Jimmy Kimmel read the wrong name, and so they're up on stage and they're all just beaming, and it's just like, and then Emma Stone's like, we didn't win. You know, she's on stage and she goes, "Oh, we didn't win," and then she like, I think she hands it over to somebody.
Yeah.
I think she hands it to one of the cast members. There's no bitterness there towards the
Yeah.
winners.
Oh, it was so embarrassing though.
How fucking embarrassing and how unnecessary that was, that shit happened.
La La Land was mistakenly announced as the winner for Best Picture. It actually was meant to be Moonlight, and so that took away the thunder from Moonlight. But it was so embarrassing for the cast and crew of La La Land, and I just felt so bad for everyone.
Because they were already up on stage, right? So they were already up on stage, and now they have to walk off.
And on top of that, I think there were like two acceptance speeches in before they were like kind of shoot off stage. They're like, no, you actually didn't win.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to mention that really quick because that was a big moment, not necessarily in a good way, but because I mean they did clean up in a lot of other categories, but man, that Best Picture
They did clean
was
up.
not for them.
Yeah, it just wasn't for them, unfortunately. And I just remember being so crestfallen. I was so excited because I was excited for them that they won too, because I just thought it was such a great
Yeah,
movie. And so I was like, just yeah, and then to see all this commotion and everything, and
yeah. Because as a viewer, you're just like, wait, what the fuck's happening right now? What's going on? There's like a lot of confusion, and no one really knew what was going
yeah.
on.
And then like Will Smith came up there and like slapped somebody. It was just
Slapped
weird.
everyone.
He slapped everyone, in fact. Yeah. Oh my gosh. He says
That would have been something.
that.
Are you watching anything that you'd like to recommend? Fillmore TV?
Oof, I just finished Succession. So yeah, that show is
Still the best show in recent memory?
in recent memory for sure. Yeah, it's up there for sure. Yeah, if you haven't watched it yet, four seasons, so it's not a lot, but it's so good. There can be such funny moments and such heavy moments too.
Man, that show was so good that you recommended it twice. Because you also recommended it for Nightcrawler.
I did. Oh shoot.
Yeah.
What am I watching? I try to think now. What am I watching now? I think I had just finished it then, maybe, or no, I was in the midst of it. That's right. I hadn't finished it yet. Am I watching anything right now?
No, you just got back from vacation. You don't got time.
Yeah. What about you? What are you watching right now?
I haven't finished it yet, but I almost spoiled the surprise. So when we're talking about Mia talking to her mom over the phone about Sebastian, and you know how he just kind of needed to have steady income, I was gonna say, what else can he do? Rob banks? That's what
Oh,
I'm watching right now. I'm halfway through The Place Beyond the Pines.
oh, ho, ho, ho.
That movie is trippy so far. Halfway through the movie, it changes main characters, which I was not prepared for.
Yeah, neither was I, dude. That wrecked me for sure. That's a whole. Oh, I saw that in theaters, and man, it got me for sure.
Afflixionados is available wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific. If you enjoy our content, give us a like or a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again so much to listeners out there for joining Michael and I. This has been Afflixionados Podcast, episode 26, La La Land, and we will see you all next time.
Yeah.
Eddie wasn't on this specific episode because you felt like you could dive a little bit deeper and be more vulnerable, which I appreciate, and I think the audience will too.
Thanks. Yeah, it was meant to be this way. I think it would be tougher when you're kind of sharing the floor with more people. You know, yeah, you're getting other perspectives, which is awesome, but hard to know if that I could even if I could be that raw, because I've never, because with you I feel like we've had these kinds of conversations before where we'll talk about relationships, we'll talk about, generational trauma, we'll do that kind of stuff. But